Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome into another edition of Infection Podcast. My name is Nick Craig. You can follow me on X at Nicholas M. Craig or check out our website, infectionpodcast.com. I cannot do this thing alone. Joining me as always, Brian with an eye Aldridge. What's going on, buddy?
Not too much, and hopefully everybody's having a good week so far with the sun and the more sunlight, the longer days. It's perfect. If you want to find me, of course, X at Boise Computer. So, Nick, we've had we were actually off for 2 weeks. I had my surgery, everything. We had stuff going on.
We were off for 2 weeks? I thought it was just 1 week.
Or, well, okay. We broadcasted 2 weeks ago. How about that? Right?
What was our last show?
Because we didn't do it last week.
Yeah,
we did it the week before.
You're
2
right.
weeks.
Okay,
you get what I'm saying?
Well, we missed 1 week.
Okay, yes. We missed a week.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you said we haven't been on in 2 weeks. You're thinking, oh, man, we skipped 2 shows, which we didn't. We skipped just one. But,
yeah, we skipped one show.
We had a record going for like 400 and like 30 some odd episodes, and it just got to the point where it was like, this is just a lot.
With babies and everything else. It's just
the beach. Yeah, these are very important things.
So there was something that we brought up when it was initially big news, but remember the Twitch Advisory Council, the Safety Advisory Council team that they made because, you know, they felt that people were just a little too masculine and all the toxic masculinity on Twitch needed to be fixed. And they had was a dear person. Was a dear lady, dear man, dear person. I don't remember.
Zimzer.
Dear whatever it is.
Zucchini.
Yeah. So they had the dear person, which really kind of made people be like, okay, well, why do we need a person who thinks they're a deer who would, you know, as a representative of people on Twitch? So they have terminated their Safety Advisory Council team. I assume because probably it just turned into a bunch of nonsense. Everybody's offended by everybody else. But the spokesperson told CNBC that it's going to continue, but it's going to be primarily, yeah, there we go. There's dear person. But it's primarily going to be made up of individuals who will serve as Twitch ambassadors. And so those will offer fresh and diverse perspectives. So this is going to be more of probably big name streamers or people that invest into Twitch, you know, because if your primary platform's Twitch, it was made up of 9 online safety experts and Twitch partners before. So it looks like they're getting rid of the safety experts.
Great.
Which what would they consider a safety expert? Someone about bullying, like what? Or is it about gender? What would they consider safety?
So I think there's a couple of things here. Now, okay, without sounding like a wuss, I'm not saying, Brian, cyberbullying is like, you know, for example, I got an email today into my inbox at work. They submitted a contact form we have a contact form on our website where people can submit comments. And this is the email I got today. Name, Nick. Email address, nicksucks@gmail.com. Message, does anyone actually listen to your show? Some folks would see that as cyberbullying and check themselves into a mental asylum. Yeah. So when I say cyberbullying and harassment, that's not what I'm talking about. I mean, there is actual, like,
that does exist.
There is actually online directed, targeted harassment, like threatening people's lives, doing police welfare checks on them, and like, there are those things, but those are very far and few in between. Yeah. That's not happening every day.
And that doesn't seem to be what they were trying to address either.
No, but I'm saying there's that safety element of it. Of course, if you've got individuals streaming that are threatening suicide or some sort of serious bodily harm, you might bring in a group that is like, okay, is this legitimate? Is this somebody just being a jackass on the internet? I mean, there's different levels of that. So there is some level of actual internet safety. But Brian, as I'm sure we can gather, this group was not the majority dealing with that. They were dealing probably with people being misgendered and saying mean comments on the internet, which I can't imagine ever partaking in or anything like that. Yeah. So that's probably what they were dealing with, and this is good. There's no need for it, right?
Yeah, and I think that these kind of groups like ambassadors, because I was an ambassador for Google when it came to Google Plus.
Sure.
And so we gave real input, because a lot of times the programmers, the people that are making it, don't understand the problems that you run into using the platform.
Absolutely.
Because for them, they assume everything, well, this is how we designed it. That's the right way to use it. But if people aren't using it that way, then you need feedback to figure out, well, how do we need to adjust and make it a better product for the actual people who use it? I assume going forward, that's probably more how they're going to try to treat this, rather than it being a big, let's talk about how, straight white guys are the worst people on earth, and what can we do to just quit having them be so intimidating on all of us. Whatever it is, bam, get it to where it's actually helping streamers, your average streamer, the people that use your platform, that provide content to all the people on here, and that bring money to your pockets, rather than these, what they consider marginalized groups, which could be a very, very small percentage of the actual user base of the platform. Just like,
Yeah.
if you look at when we went to PAX, look at how much emphasis they put on a minority of people there. They had whole rooms dedicated to them. Was there a room dedicated to the majority of the average person that attended that place?
Probably not. This was, this is not, these weren't big salaries. CNBC says that these 12-month contracts were in between $10,000 and $20,000. So this is not a full-time job. These were individuals doing this on the side. But $20,000 a year on top of an additional income, Brian, is no. Yeah, but I'm saying that on top of another income is not a small sum of money. So they apparently just decided that, halfway through the year, which would have been the start of June, that they were not going to do this, and then they're going to switch it over to presumably a volunteer essential system, or people that are already doing something as an employee of Twitch, adding this to their responsibility.
Good for them.
Yeah, and they say they have 180 streamers in their 180 streamers in their ambassador program already. So that's already a large group of individuals. So they should be good to go. Cost cutting.
I think
that's what it is.
I think this will be better. And we've been seeing a lot of cost cutting across the industry. Now, I saw a tweet, and I think this is maybe that last, piece of information we gave out. It shows a kind of a turning of the tide, a changing of the times, people going back to what I would consider more normal, right? Grums, who used to work for Blizzard, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
I think he was part of World of Warcraft's development. And now he does development, for a smaller company, his own stuff. And he's a conservative. And he turned around.
Is he actually a conservative, though, or is he just not insane?
Well, he's maybe not a conservative, but he is actually conservative.
Okay.
I would label him as conservative, where there are people who would be more level-headed, will you consider them? No, I'd say he's probably more of closer to how we believe type of conservative.
And the reason I ask that is because there is a huge issue on the right where anytime there is somebody that says anything countercultural to like the progressive left, they're like, oh my God, this person is a conservative. Joe Rogan is a conservative or whatever.
No,
and it's like,
no, Joe Rogan's not as crazy as he used to be. Doesn't mean he's conservative.
Yeah,
he's just not left-wing anymore.
You can have an opinion. You can have a conservative opinion and not be a conservative. So that was the premise there of my question.
So he posted a what is it still called a tweet? He posted a thing here.
Who knows?
Talking about how these major companies have not updated their logo for Pride Month. Which, if you remember last year, if you remember the year before that, and the year before that, that was not something that happened. Like, Pride Month was huge. Everything changed their logo for Pride Month. This is an election year, which kind of catches me off guard. So if you look there, that was the post that he had done at the time. I figured I would follow up and make sure, because maybe they just hadn't gotten to it yet. It wasn't Monday yet. Maybe they just didn't feel like doing it on Saturday. Well, I put in the notes, if you want to just jump, I put links to each of those directly to their X pages.
Yeah.
Let's see what their titles look like. This is something that every previous year we've always had some sort of Pride Month representation. They have not changed their logo.
Good.
No change for Bethesda.
No change for Google.
Google, very shocking. They have not changed their logo for Pride Month. Xbox has not changed their logo for Pride Month.
And who's the last one? Oh, no, that we hit them all.
Then there was...
Blizzard. Yeah,
Blizzard has not changed their logo for Pride Month. Incredibly shocking to me. I expected it just to be a fluke that he was just jumping the gun. Monday would turn around.
Midnight at 12:01 a.m. being like, oh my God.
Yeah, I figure, yeah. Oh, look, they didn't do it. You kind of like, he's a conservative. No,
Yeah,
it's just
exactly.
you haven't seen the crazy yet.
I did see
but this. I was kind of surprised.
I did see this. I saw this earlier on Twitter, and it was a bit of a reminder. Now, this is screenshots, I believe, from years past. I don't know if any of these companies' logos are currently this. Oh, actually, I know for a fact Bethesda's is not. This was the U.S./Western world version of their social media profiles versus their Middle East profiles, and Bethesda being one of them. And this is, again, years past, not right now. But you could see Bethesda change their little square thing to the rainbow flag, and then Bethesda Middle East during the same month of June, Brian, magically did not change their logo. Same thing with Cisco, one of the largest telecom companies in the world. Lenovo, one of the largest hardware manufacturers. BMW and Mercedes, two of the largest car companies. None of them changed their logos in years past.
So
the Middle East.
Lenovo did not change it this year. Cisco did change it this year.
Okay.
They went back to the same one they had before.
Sure, pull it out of the archives.
BMW changed their logo again this year. Mercedes. And, well, I'm getting their F1 team. Let's see, Mercedes-Benz. Let's try that. It looks like they did because their F1 team changed it. So I'm assuming.
Gotcha. So, you know why? You know what's interesting about this, Brian? When you look at the fact that you said, just by glancing over that, and it's hard to translate that out to everybody or everything, of course. But the gaming industry is one that is kind of in the limelight right now. I don't think people are at like a car company. Are people really boycotting car companies? Not as much of a thing. Cisco,
not the same way, yeah.
Cisco is an enterprise software and hardware company, not interacting and interfacing with consumers as much as everybody else. Yes, they do sell some home appliances, but most people are buying things on an enterprise level for Cisco. But these gaming companies, right? They are the ones that are dealing with this backlash full-throated. Like, it's right in front of them because they're dealing with all of this stuff day in and day out. And I've given my analogy before. I'll give it again. I call it the rubber band analogy. And you take a rubber band and you pull it. And when it snaps, it shoots back in the other direction and hits your other thumb or finger. And I believe that is happening right now. And this is something as stupid as changing, which, by the way, not that I ever cared about it because it is literally meaningless, but it is pandering.
Virtue signaling is all.
It's virtue signaling and pandering. It's no different. I don't know if you saw the clip of Kamala Harris this weekend changing the tone of her voice when she was talking to a predominantly African American crowd. There's the great Hillary Clinton clip of her sounding nothing like how she speaks at all to try and pander to a group of black voters. The pandering is not good. I mean, it's never good. You shouldn't have to pander, especially when you're a video game company or a car company that sells products to anybody and everybody as long as they have the financial means to purchase those products. This is a good sign. Again, not that I cared if Xbox changed their logo. It's irrelevant to me. But it may be a larger sign of the times. Maybe course correcting is taking place, Brian.
Well, here's one that might take a little longer. I don't know if you saw this, but Epic, they have released where they have these coding standards. They're inclusive coding standards.
Okay.
That they require their developers inside of Epic, so for Unreal Engine and all of this, to use inclusive word choice in coding. So they don't allow things like blacklist, which means a list of ones that aren't allowed, or master and slave, which is in its hierarchy. Purely hierarchy used to be with old hard drives. You'd have to have a master drive and a slave drive because they'd be on the same cable.
Networking, it's still very relevant for switches and routers, a master and a slave, router and switch. Yeah. Absolutely. Very,
And
very
so they
prominent
don't
terminology.
allow that. They have different coding standards that they do in there, and they want to refer to like for instance, yeah, master slave you can't do, but they have different terms that they make you use instead of those terms, which I
Well,
think is
Brian,
kind
what
of
the hell?
crazy because
You're getting the paycheck.
well,
These are your people, Mr. Epic.
I wish
Mr.
I was
Epic,
getting,
promote.
yeah, they need to keep sending me this paycheck. I don't know where it went.
I mean, what's going on here, Mr. Epic? Come on.
I mean, if
Tim
you look,
Sweeney, right? He's a this is why I say you don't get trapped into I'm a conservative thing, because he's not.
He's logical. That's it.
Yes.
They confuse logical with conservative. Just because someone has the ability to process logic doesn't mean they're a conservative. Because I know plenty of people who are programmers who deal in logic all the time, and if you put something in front of them that's logical, sure, but you put in front of them their religion, which is DEI and whatever else, liberalism and all these things, all of a sudden logic goes out the window, and they're now very different. They don't think, you could bring up to them logic all the time, but then it's, when you pin them, there's like, oh, well, I just can't get myself to, I just can't.
Would you like to know
all of a sudden they start stumbling.
Would you like to know another word on their blacklist of words that they can't
all right,
use?
well, yeah, what is this?
Nuke.
Oh, because of Japan?
I assume it's got to be Japan, right? I mean, who else?
Those people aren't alive. None of those people are alive. I mean, maybe if there was, my dad is in he's just about to turn 80 pretty soon, right? He was born the year World War II ended. So, I mean, anybody who was old enough to remember it is about 100.
Is not sure as hell not programming inside.
They're
of
not
Unreal
worried
Engine.
about you using the word nuke when it comes to, I'm going to nuke that file. You think they care?
Nuke this code, yeah.
I mean, it's kind of crazy.
They also, assuming gender is also a violation under Epic's game language policy, as the company said not to use collective pronouns like guys in their in this. They want to refer to everybody as theys and thems and theirs for even hypothetical people. Brian, this is very disappointing. This is a big L for you. This is not good. These are your guys. This is not good.
I know.
So
I was hoping it would be different.
In place of whitelist, programmers can use the word.
I found their documentation, so I'll put a link to that as well, where they have this list.
So in place of whitelist, programmers can use the word trust list or approved list. As with master,
so you're saying they say, what is a trust list or approved list? It's equivalent to a whitelist. So a trust list is a whitelist. Doesn't that sound more racist when you have to then explain? So white means trust, just so you know. Black means no and bad, just so you know. Well, why did you change it to where you have to associate a different word that then is a negative word with something that wasn't a negative? A black list doesn't mean a negative thing, right? But you say, a no-no list or whatever you're going to.
Oh, that's a good one. I like that. A no-no list. Master should be used as words like primary. And for slave, examples include worker or replica, which I would say replica is not necessary, depending on what the context is not a good, might not mean exactly what it's trying to do. So yeah, there you go.
So here I found their section. I just want to read. So they have categories for racial, ethnic, and religious inclusiveness. Do not use metaphors or similes that reinforce stereotypes. This includes those that contrast black and white, such as blacklist and whitelist. So anything that contrasts, shows variation between two things, is a no-no. And do not use words that refer to historical trauma, which would probably be nuke. Or lived experience or of discrimination. There we go. So that's why this includes slave, master, and nuke. Gender inclusiveness, refer to hypothetical people with the they, them, their, or even in the singular, referring to one person, you should call them they or them. When you refer to anything that is not a person, always use it and its. So, for example, a module, plugin, function, client, server, or other software or hardware component. So you have to refer to hardware as an it. I don't get that. Do not assign a gender or anything that does not have one. So we can
Like
assign a
bird?
gender to men and women. Can we do that? I mean,
That's
a male,
a tricky
man
one,
and a
Brian.
woman. I mean, I'm confused because what about the ones who don't have a gender? Do not use collective nouns like guys, as you said. Avoid colloquial. Sorry, I got to pronounce
Colloquial
it right,
phrases.
phrases that contain arbitrary genders, such as
A
poor man's ex.
Yeah, so this a poor man's car, a poor man's house, a poor man's dog, or some stupid colloquialism like that.
You're not supposed to. So slang. Remember that your words will be read by a global audience. So things that we're talking about cultural reference. Even though you may think it's funny or harmless, don't put them in there. Don't use
I can
profanity.
understand. Now that I can actually understand, because there is, especially the English language, as stupid of a language as it is, there is absolutely things that could be slang in the English language that does not translate or does not cross over very well. That I think is a fair thing to say, and that's probably just a good practice in general, because things won't translate and make sense.
Slang, I understand. I worked
totally.
for a company where I had to do training for them, and they said that Ebonics was a language and was okay to use in work, and that I wasn't allowed to make any comments about Ebonics. Like, as far as I wasn't allowed to not be happy if someone was using Ebonics. That's their actual language that they're allowed to use in work.
But what I'm saying, I don't think that's what they're talking about when they say slang. I think they're talking about slang.
That's what I mean. Slang, I understand. That I do not. There's a proper way to talk at work to get your message across to coworkers and people, and Ebonics is not the way to do it. But they said that I had to accept Ebonics as a language, like Spanish, English, and then Ebonics. I had to accept it as a language and treat it that way.
Interesting.
I thought that was kind of crazy.
And then there's this thing,
overloaded words.
Overloaded words. Yeah, this is an interesting one.
So many terms that we use for our technical meanings also have other uses outside of technology, like abort, execute, or native. So you're not allowed to use the word abort. You're not allowed to execute code or a native environment. So a native environment just means environment where it is from. It's native to it. That is a proper word to use. What are you going to use instead? Original? Then are we going to mad about aboriginal? Like, what are we going to? Where will it stop? You know what I'm saying? Like, you can replace these words,
Brian.
and then new words will come in to make those offensive again. Because native is not. What, you saying Native Americans are bad? Like, why can't I say something's native? That's a positive thing. Now, you could say, oh, though they're natives, you could associate some sort of negative meaning to that. But the word native is not bad in any way. It's crazy to me that these are word list. The following list identifies some terminology. So they have a list. That's a really short list. Black list, the white list, master, and slave is all they put on there. And they give you words to put in place of it. So a blacklist is a deny list, a block list, a exclude list, an avoid list. Isn't that kind of racist to say a blacklist and an avoid list are the same thing? Unapproved list, forbidden list, permission list. For white list, allow list, include list, a trust list, a safe list, a prefer list, an approved list, or a permission list. So this is an example, but so they're going to probably come up with a whole set of things. Why don't they just write a plugin that automatically replaces those when you type
every
them?
word? Yeah.
Yeah. As far as if I type in master, it replaces it with base or original or something else, or suggests it to me. They wrote the program that they're writing in. They could make a plugin to suggest replacements as you type.
Yeah. Brian, you're taking a big L.
I know. I got it.
This is this is where things go overboard, where we've seemingly lost the ability in society to use any sort of logic or common sense. Because if you were able to use logic or common sense, you would be able to understand that when a programmer is blacklisting a set of IP addresses from China so that they can't access something to prevent spam, that they are not using that in a racially offensive context, right? That's what logic and common sense would teach you. But when you evaporate that from society, which is what we have done, and common sense is seemingly no more, this is the end result. Because now you can't assume anything and you can't use any common sense to make a rational determination. A rational determination over what is being discussed and what is not. So the solution is just get rid of every word. But again, eventually these words will fall out of favor because they will be seen. Like, for example, one of their alternatives for master is leader, which I don't see how you couldn't look back at history and say, oh, well, there weren't terrible leaders that did atrocious things throughout history. I mean, so that's the issue with this, Brian.
Like, at what point do you stop being offended?
Well, then that's the issue. The amount of mental gymnastics that you have to go through for this garbage to make any sense is exhausting. I mean, can you imagine having to like go live, Brian? I'm sure you're stressed enough. You've got a farm full of kids and a wife, and your life is already so stressful, and you have to tiptoe around all of you'd lose your mind. You'd have to check yourself into an insane asylum. If you actually went through life looking at words on billboards and going into stores and watching television and movies and had this visceral reaction to all of these microaggressions and all of these words, you'd have to check yourself into a loony bin. I mean, you can't be a normal person. Sorry. You can't be a normal person and actually live your life like this without seemingly going completely insane.
Well, and that's the thing is they also are just trying to pick and choose where you should be offended. I mean, for instance, Runner Meta posted, talking about calling Native Americans Indians, and even something like that. That's something I brought up before. A Native American and Indian are two different people. They should be, but confusion. But if you look, Native Americans came from Asia originally. Like, at what point? Where are we supposed to be? At what timeline are we supposed to be offended in? I wasn't alive when Native Americans were pretty much, we could call it, conquered here, right? Sure. They were conquered.
Oh, you weren't.
I wasn't alive then.
You weren't on the Mayflower.
No, I wasn't on the Mayflower. Okay. I wasn't there.
I know you're an old man.
Through the American Indian War, I wasn't there for any of that. Am I supposed to be offended for that timeline, or am I supposed to go back a little farther when they came in and invaded North America and took it over for themselves? Is that the point where and took it from the animals? Am I supposed to be
when the ice bridge existed?
When the supposed Native Americans, Asians, they'll call them, came over and invaded our country. Like, is that where I'm supposed? Like, what point am I supposed to cut off being offended at? Because I could go back really far, and get offended at the slaughter of all the the great dinosaur slaughter that happened at some point in time, and be offended about that. Like, well, how am I supposed to know what list I'm supposed to be offended? Do they have an official offensive list?
Well, see, and that's the issue, and this is why it ends in self-destruction, because there is no uniformity to it. There is no oh, this is our repository of things that we're offended by. It's just everybody kind of doing their own thing and seeing who can be more offended about X, Y, or Z. That's essentially what comes.
It makes it hard to figure out with logic where you're supposed to be offended.
Oh yeah, you have no idea.
It doesn't make logical sense. Like, it's here and there, offended about this, but not about that. Oh, you can say white people are the worst things on earth, or a white male is, but better not say anything about anybody else. Well, where's that written in law? Like, I don't know where these rules are. It seems like they're making them up on the fly.
They are. They absolutely are. I mean, and that's why I say I use the term mental gymnastics, and I mean it, because it really is an exercise on figuring out how a specific color, a specific word, I'm sure fonts and things like that, they have some internal guidelines on, oh, this font can be seen as highly offensive.
They have
X, Y, or Z.
There has been fonts in the past that they have had a big thing about. and I'll have to go
So
try to find.
stupid.
I'll try to find a story for that. Did you hear about the bar in Idaho? They
Yes.
Live TikTok just posted about it.
Yeah, I
It's
saw
been a big
this
deal
yesterday.
here.
Yeah.
So, an Idaho bar celebrated June as Heterosexual Awareness Month, so that if you're heterosexual, you can get it. You get it like a discount, 15% off on Wednesdays and things like that. There's hetero male Monday, and then there's something on hetero couples day on Wednesday, things like that, and you get like a 15% discount. Just because he figured, well, if everybody gets a time, then that's their time to celebrate, and so they're doing that. So people are freaking out, saying how hateful that is. Well, why is it to say that being straight and celebrating it is hateful, when saying for the whole month being gay and celebrating that is pride? And
Hold on, it's
wonderful
not.
and-
Hold on, it's not about being gay. It's about it being LGBTQIAP+. Please
well,
understand.
fill in the blanks. Okay.
I'm
or
giving you the
gay or
I'm
not
giving you
gay,
the
or-
approved I'm giving you
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
approved acronym. You choose not to use it. That's your business. I'm telling you what the acronym is. All right. Have
Yeah,
you been to
and
this
so-
place? Okay, so you
I've never
have
been
to
there.
you have to go. You have a whole
Well,
month.
this is up in North Idaho. I mean,
I don't care.
I'm not driving 9 hours to go to this bar. What are you talking about?
Oh,
Where is it?
it's in North
I was-
Idaho. I thought it was near
Yeah,
Boise.
it's in North Idaho. I mean, for me,
Oh.
I have to drive a long ways.
Oh, I thought it was.
to
I
get
thought it was
there.
near the. I thought I read that. I thought it was near the Boise area. I'm sorry.
I don't
No.
think so. No, Old State Saloon. Let's look. I was trying to find the Old State Saloon. I'll find where.
Oh, it's in Eagle, Idaho, wherever that is.
Oh, that's here. Never mind. That is close. I was thinking it was
okay.
in Northern
I'm-
Idaho.
yeah, no,
okay,
I'm
yeah,
not
this is
insane.
here.
Okay, so
Yeah, no,
can
you're right.
you?
Eagles in the valley.
Can you? You've got a month. Can you get to this place and report back?
I mean, I could try if I'm in the area.
Let's see. Your
I don't go to
wife
Eagle
is
very often.
your wife is texting me. Let's see what she has to say.
Oh,
about
let's see.
all
Yeah, I'm sure she'll.
that. Huh. She said it's close. So there you go.
Yeah, Eagle is close. I was thinking it was in Northern Idaho, but yeah, Eagle is actually pretty close. It's what 30, 45 minutes.
I'm just saying. There's an opportunity to check it out.
So anyways, that's causing an uproar. But why? What is offensive to me is that they say that I am offensive, because that's what that is saying. Saying that that's bad, yet anyone else can do it is good, is saying that I am offensive. Which isn't that what they're supposed to be fighting? With all this pride and everything of people finding other people offensive,
I go back to my
far
previous
as
statement.
who they are.
When you erase logic and the ability to understand anything and use any sort of context clues, Brian, this is the result. It's why I keep it ends in self-destruction, because it doesn't work. It's not logical. It doesn't the math. It doesn't math, right? None of this stuff equates. It's insanity. Good for this guy.
Yeah, and so this is still Eagle is fairly liberal here. Just to the east of it, is the most liberal area of where we live. So they're surrounded. I can see why he's probably even getting a little bit of flack there. But that area of Boise, Eagle, and everything is where the most liberal people in the state live. Like if you look at Idaho, it's very conservative, all the way around the whole state, and then there's a little pocket that is bright blue, and it's around these areas. So, I'm sure he's getting a little bit of flack even in his home.
He's getting lit up on social media. I'll tell you what, Brian, you need to go on Monday. You get a free beer on Monday.
I just don't drink. I mean, get a beer and
Send your wife with a beard.
she's breastfeeding the baby. I mean, she can't drink beer.
Okay, that's true too. You need to go to this place and get a beer. Damn it! I mean, it's just not an option. A free pint of beer on Monday
for being straight.
Hetero male Mondays.
It's all for all the things I've missed out on just because I am straight. And I don't get.
Yeah, exactly. So if you don't take
I didn't
advantage
get a
of it, it's your
personal
own fault.
counselor at Google.
Nope,
I didn't get any of these things that all the other people got. I need to have some of those things.
That's what I'm saying. So your chances right now, if you choose not to take it, that's your own fault.
Okay. Well,
that's great.
I'll think
I've
about
got some gaming news that I think might be relevant for some of our audience here. Brian, this is pretty big news. Microsoft, coming hot off of their acquisition of Activision Blizzard, has announced that Call of Duty Black Ops 6 will be an Xbox Game Pass launch item, which was obviously part of their 69.8 or whatever $billion acquisition of Activision Blizzard. They want every single person that has an Xbox to have a $10 to $20 a month subscription, and it will keep
to help
Xbox
justify that
forever.
cost.
100%.
When one game is 3 to 4 months of the subscription cost, it makes sense, right? Get a couple games on there, and you've paid in your mind. You've paid for your subscription with what you would have purchased in the games that you buy yearly, right? That's that mentality that I think is going to work for them, because they know that if they can get these people on the subscription, they're not going to cancel it for 3 months here and there because maybe there's not a game that's
a pain in the butt to do. Nobody wants to cancel a subscription.
If they get them there and they can justify 3/4 of the cost because they would have spent it anyways, they'll get them for that last quarter of the cost. Keeping subscribed. So I think this is a good smart plan. This is the way to do it. Get big titles that'll draw people in, get them subscribed, and you'll get to where you have just rolling in money recurring.
Yeah,
and then roll out your family plan.
Yes, which they definitely need to do. There's obviously good sides and bad sides of this. You can still purchase the game outright. There's nothing wrong with doing that. But for individuals that might hem and haw about the Game Pass, and you are an active Call of Duty player, this might lend credence to, okay, let me just fire up ye old Game Pass subscription and let her rip. That's obviously the goal and the objective here. Software as a service.
I think they should put WoW under it with a enhancement to the subscription for WoW. So, whatever it is. Have a base plan that works under the Game Pass, which gets people into WoW. And then have like the plus version of it, which gives you the full World of Warcraft experience if you're a heavy player, right? Sure. Whatever that is, how they determine how that break-off works. Do that with Call of Duty, that's a huge player base. Do that with World of Warcraft, that's a huge player base. And they got a lot of others that I don't know, Sims and all. I don't know how much of a draw that really is. But they've got a number of titles that if they just would put all those things inside of that Game Pass, it would be, especially for a World of Warcraft player, they would feel like they're getting a discount because they already pay $15 a month just for World of Warcraft. I mean, maybe it's gone up. I don't know. But, I think the subscription fee is like $15 a month for World of Warcraft. That would justify a lot of people's Game Pass.
The real question is, will this be available for console, or is this just Xbox? Now, they've got their event this Sunday, their Xbox, their E3 equivalent event thing that they do that everybody does. That's happening this Sunday. So we'll learn more information there. The real question is for, $15 to $16 a month, can you get this on PC, console, or some set of both? That's going to be the question.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see how, because this hasn't released yet. Do you know when it's releasing?
It'll come out in November, like every other Call of Duty.
So whenever it comes out, it'll be interesting November, to see if they get a big spike in subscriptions that month, or the preceding month.
I'm sure they will, absolutely, because you're going to have a lot of people that, again, are on the fence about Game Pass, think about Game Pass, whatever, and will say, okay, I'm going to pull the trigger instead of spending $70 on a game.
Why not have a Game Pass in Game Pass? And what I mean is, why not have things that you earn because you are subscribed to Game Pass as kind of like a season pass that you get because you're on Game Pass?
Like what? Give me an example.
Something like, but because you have Call of Duty on Game Pass, you get some unique skins and things. Just they'll release things for all Game Pass users that you kind of like what Twitch Prime does. You know how they're constantly releasing skins and everything that you can get if you're a Prime subscriber. Have something like that for your Game Pass as well, where you feel like that's also just little things that don't really cost them real money, that to the person who's subscribed to it feels like it's justifying their experience. Because look at how much people pay for fake hats, right? Things like that.
Well, they're not fake, but they're
But in-game virtual hats, right? That have no
Okay,
impact
touche.
on gameplay.
Sure.
People pay ridiculous money just to have something that's unique. Put it to where, like, why aren't they trying to perk up or enhance to where people feel like the Game Pass is a good deal by putting things in that don't really cost them money to generate, or cost them a minimal amount, taking a skin and putting it in there, including it. I mean, they already do these sort of things for Amazon Prime. It just seems like that would be like, quit putting your products perks on Amazon Prime. You're not Amazon. Put them on your Game Pass instead. Right? I wish they would start doing that, because that would make more sense for me. I go and redeem the Game Pass stuff, or the Amazon Prime stuff, even if I have no interest in having it, just in case I start playing that game in the future. Like, put a list of perks. PlayStation did it, right? They had this thing where you could go claim a game every month if you're subscribed to Plus.
Yeah, PlayStation Plus. Yeah.
I wish they would gamify their Game Pass a little bit, just to make it feel like you're getting a little more than just a subscription to games.
I'm going to ask you a stupid question. Are you sure they're not already doing this? I don't know.
I haven't seen it. I've been subscribed to Game Pass for a long time. I don't see anywhere in Xbox to redeem any of these things or do any of it.
Yeah,
There's in the Game Pass other than download the game and play it.
Yeah, I think the first thing you mentioned that would be some sort of exclusive skin or something like that would be because of you having a Game Pass subscription would be the way to go. But they're really only going to get away with that probably with first party games, right? Because like for a third party studio, why would you bother? Yeah, well, exactly.
Maybe they want to encourage people to play their games. Maybe their game has DLCs that they can add to it beyond the Game Pass that they want to encourage people to use. A studio might want to throw perks in there to get people to try their game out, and then they'll maybe go to, get the add-ons and things that they can add to Game Pass, their Game Pass base version.
Yeah, I don't see the incentive for the third-party studios because they don't care if more people subscribe to Game Pass. It doesn't really help them at all.
But if they get more people to download their game, there's an incentive there. So if they could throw in some things to get people to at least launch the game, to redeem it, or do whatever they're doing,
I see
like that will up their numbers. You see what I'm saying? Like there is a benefit there but they're not giving them a way to take advantage of it. They're not giving the people that put their games on Game Pass a way to take advantage of it, and they're not taking advantage of it.
And it might be for good.
There's so much value there.
Tell you what, that might be for good reason, because it would juice up download numbers for people that aren't playing games. And Microsoft's presumably paying out on that.
Yeah, and maybe that's what they're wanting to avoid. Okay, well then do it based on playtime. Like if you get achievements,
that's very complicated.
Give more to the achievements and things like that. That'd be one way to do it. If you're on Game Pass, there, and you get achievements, like you get a perk. However they want to gamify it. It's just right now I feel like they're not doing it at all, and I feel like that's a big loss. Like people feel like their subscription is more like just a Netflix. It's a service that you can turn on and use when you want to.
Yes, which I think, Brian, and some folks might argue, I don't want the clutter, I don't want the garbage. I just want to, I don't want any of this stuff. I just want to pay my subscription and get my game. The good news is, as crazy as this sounds, Game Pass is still in its infancy in terms of what what its final form will look like when it's quote unquote done. So there's plenty of time to throw some of this additional stuff in. I would argue that the family plan is something that is still very much.
That'd be huge.
It would be huge.
I was waiting for that.
Yeah, exactly.
Our kids don't play any other games on the Game Pass because I have to log in, switch to their account just for them to be able to play it. Which makes no sense. Even if I'm not using my game, logged into anything anywhere else, like it won't let them just play them. So
there you go.
All right. So do you want to just cover a couple small things here really quick? We got a couple little stories, if that's all right. Unless there
I
was
had
something else you wanted to cover first.
I had one more story. This was actually a Sony story. We hit Microsoft, we'll hit Sony. I thought this was an interesting headline. Sony says its PlayStation 5 is its most profitable generation to date. They claim that the PS5 has generated $106 billion in sales and have almost caught up to the $107 billion that the PS4 generated in sales. They say operating income for the PlayStation 5 generation has already surpassed that of the PS4, having reached $10 billion. So even though they made more money off the direct sales of the PS4 as of now, there's still plenty of years left in this current generation of consoles, with the other things on top of this, including 118 million active users on its platforms. They call this the most successful generation in there.
Well,
it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, and I don't know if there's more people playing. I mean, the thing is the numbers are higher. Like there's more people playing on consoles or playing on whether it's consoles or anything else. Like we just have more gamers now, and so that makes more sense to me. That your industry is going to go up if there's more people interested in your product. I don't know
It's
if
not the
it's
case for
anything
the
specific
Xbox,
to
though.
do. Well, but they've been pushing it more to different things, right? I think that they're going to end up being more successful in the long run because if you
They
look
will
at
be.
we got 1, 2, 3, 4 of the years so far, and if you look at the history, there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 on average, right?
Yeah.
So they've got 3 more years to milk this. Microsoft, though, doesn't have to come out with another console to keep earning that money. These guys do, because after that, you see how it start tapering off. You saw the PS3 at the end; it tapered off right before they released a new console.
Sure.
PS4
I mean,
tapered off.
Yeah, nobody buys at the end of the life cycle. But I mean,
But there's going to be, but if they don't feel like another one's coming out, it's going to taper off as well, and they're going to switch to something they feel is still alive. And I think Microsoft feels still alive, even if they didn't release another console.
Well, here's the thing: they'll release another console at the same time as Sony because they have to compete with it. But in terms of long-term success, not only between Microsoft's acquisitions of companies like Bethesda, Activision Blizzard, and all the other studios they've purchased, but their cloud streaming profile, which is
that's what I'm waiting.
I'm talking about. I'm not even talking Game Pass. I'm talking the cloud streaming is huge, and that's still in beta, but seemingly works pretty well. Then you add Game Pass on top of it with all of that stuff. In terms of what do these two companies look like over the next decade, unless something dramatic happens and we have a massive switch back to physical media and wanting to own all of our stuff again, Brian, which doesn't seem very likely, at least not from a large enough group of consumers. Unless that happens, Sony is screwed. I mean, because they literally cannot compete with what Microsoft has to offer. It's not possible.
I think Microsoft is looking at the long term. I think
100%.
Sony's looking at the short term.
I don't think they're looking at the short term. They got outplayed by Microsoft. There's nobody left to acquire. So at this point in time, it's like, well, let's just keep banging out good exclusive content, and we just hope that many households have both, have an Xbox and a PlayStation. Sony, of course, is gonna. They do have a really strong first party. They do have some strong first party studios. They do have some really good exclusives. Microsoft, prior to their acquisitions, was struggling with that. The Halo franchise is essentially over and done with. In large part. And it's really going to be interesting to see what does Microsoft do with all the old Activision IP. That is, I think, a huge untapped industry. Crash Bandicoot and games like that Activision.
I keep hearing they're going to be releasing some new things. So
that'd be dope.
There was a rumor. I want to throw this at you and see if you think there's any credence to it. Supposedly, Microsoft is preparing a $16 billion offer to acquire Valve. Do you think that there's any? This is rumors.
That seems
Do you think
low.
that's even a possibility?
That's
Yeah, that
after that
I
price
think
tag. They spent
Valve is
70
worth more
billion
than
on
16 billion.
Activision, but they're going to spend 16 billion on Valve. I would argue, Brian, the only legitimate.
But they're only valued at 7.7 billion right now in 2022.
No way.
That's what they claim.
That just seems low.
Yeah, I'm looking to make sure that.
Okay, so my gut reaction is that's low, but then as I think about it, the only thing Valve really has is users, right? They don't really make anything. They haven't.
Well, they
made
make a few games, but they
Not
don't do super
what?
well in the long term.
What do they make?
So they made hardware devices. They've made some games like Portal. They've made
those games,
Half-Life.
Those games haven't been a new game in 15 years. So, I mean,
exactly. And the thing is, they'll release a game, but they're not games that have a long life. And people like them at the time, but they never release a number 3. They never, they very rarely release a number 2. You know what I'm saying? Like Valve is a horrible software development company. If you really look at how they do their things, their product isn't really that well made. The interface is still not very well made, in my opinion. Their services could be a lot more streamlined. They don't seem like they really try in a lot of areas. They're just kind of keeping things running, keeping the same infrastructure in the back end that I think is holding them back as far as how much they could grow and what they could offer. Because Steam is kind of it's kind of a mess. If you really look at how it's laid out, it's not really made well. In my opinion, I'm just looking at, it just doesn't flow, doesn't pull you from one place. It doesn't seem nice to go and find games and browse them and be pulled in by anything.
Yeah. Now you mentioned, their games do. I mean, the number one game being played on Steam right now is CS2. So I mean, that's obviously that's.
And how long is that?
Game.
That's been how many years?
Yeah, it has. It's been out since 2012. It's 12 years old. Dota is also a Valve game. So the top 4 of the top 5 games currently being played on Steam are
Counter-Strike 2 was released last year, and that replaced the CS:GO, right, or whatever the Global Offensive.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
So, but it's been kind of the same thing going for the whole time.
So they do have all of that.
Yeah, they got TF2, CS, Counter-Strike.
It's like, again, you look at the cost for Activision Blizzard at, call it $70 billion. And then you look at Valve at 17. It's got to be higher than that, right? At least 30, if not more.
I don't know. I mean, they'd have to do so much work to come in and fix it.
Yeah, but hold on. I disagree with you completely. I don't think they have to come in and fix anything. What they're buying is the largest PC player base that's ever existed.
But the thing is, they've got to flow that in so smoothly and make it feel so that people don't sit there and get mad. What I'm saying is, what are you getting mad about? They're going to have to, if once they start joining together whatever systems in the behind the scenes that do multiplayer, that do counting of stats and all this stuff. Like, they're going to have to do a really good job of making it just feel like it's birthday, Christmas all the time with how they're releasing these things to Steam users. So they see, oh, hey, this is way better. But it's going to take so much work for them to probably fix that whole back end of Steam to make it to where they can start integrating the two to make them seamless. Because that would be the ultimate goal, is you want your user base to be seamless between console and PC.
Sure.
And getting Steam would be that way to make it happen, to where you could control all the multiplayer and you'd be competition against Epic. Because that's what Epic really wants, right? They want that multiplayer pie, handling all the stats, communications, and everything behind in the background on games. Microsoft could do that as well. And so that's where I think if they want to beat Epic to it, if you can get Valve and then start merging the two ecosystems, then it would be just one big player base. They wouldn't be separated like we are right now. I just think they could do it, but I just have a feeling that Steam is a mess.
There's currently 21.5 million users online, 5.2 in game on Steam right now.
Yeah,
that's worth a lot. I'm not sure they would sell anyway. I don't think they'd sell at that price point.
Yeah, I don't know. That definitely a rumor. I see
if
it.
Microsoft,
Maybe they'll put it out there.
If Microsoft could purchase Valve, it would be completely over. I mean, they would be which I would argue would be not a good thing. I was okay with their Activision.
I think they would need to wait till next year because I don't think under Biden and their current administration
I'm not even saying
that would be dealt with.
I think at that point, with them owning the console market, Game Pass, Blizzard, Activision, all the other crap they own, and Steam, I think you get into a territory now where I have given credit to Microsoft.
I'd be worried about
past.
monopoly.
I would be worried about that as well. I mean, I've given credit. I think Microsoft has done a pretty damn good job as of late trying to be as consumer focused as realistic for a company that size. But when you own all of it and essentially shut down the competition, you do turn into a monopoly. And I think that I would not be in favor of.
I think that might be too big of a step for them to where people wouldn't, there wouldn't be a, oh, don't worry, we're not evil discussion that would make people feel comfortable, with that. I just don't think they could. I think you would be a holder of so much of the gaming world that there would be no real defensible argument to say you're not. I mean, you hold the majority of every key in the place. So, well, we'll see though. I mean, this is the rumor. I saw it. I figure I'd throw it in here and see if you thought that there was any truth to it. But I personally don't think it'll happen. I think it's totally rumor. I don't think Valve would take it.
I don't think Valve would take it either. And again, I think industry-wise, I think it'd be really bad news for consumers. There is something about vertical integration. There is something about having one subscription that works for all of these things. But there is such thing as a bridge too far. And I think
I've been pushing for owning a game once and being able to play it on PC or console and not mattering. That would be the way to do it. Like, I have a huge Steam library.
Yeah, but they're not going to give you those. Game Pass is your solution.
Yeah.
And that's it. I mean, you get the ultimate version of Game Pass, and that's what you've got.
Yeah. So we'll see.
All right.
We'll see what they do.
Well, Brian, great show as always. Nice and lively and fruitful. Oh, yes. Where can folks find you online?
Well, if you want to find me on X, you can, of course, go to @BoiseComputer, or if you want to find me on Gab, Getter, Truth Social, wherever all these other places are, @BrianAldridge. Of course, if you want to go check out my blog, biteoftech.com, and then if you go to infectionpodcast.com, just go to the upper right-hand side and join our server on Discord. That's a great place if you want to maybe join one of our 11 ARC servers we got going. We have all the official maps on there. You're more than welcome to jump in and play one of those. We also have a politics section. If you want to contribute to the show, we've got a show news channel. Just go ahead and toss links in there and review that before the live show starts. We also have our live show streaming on Twitch and YouTube. We upload after the fact to Rumble. We also upload after the fact to our podcast platforms. So if you're listening to us on a podcast, that means we've already done the show and uploaded it. And at the lower right-hand side, you can click whatever's the most convenient place to listen to us. If you're listening, that means we've got the show notes done for that episode, and you can go to that particular page, and there will be links for everything that we discussed throughout that show. So maybe you're listening and you want to follow along, or maybe you want to catch a video that we played that you didn't get to see. Just jump in there and you can go check those out. We also have that video and audio player built into that page. If you want to go and support us, we do have a support menu option up top, or you can go to infectionpodcast.com/support.
Brian, my friend, as always, greatly appreciated. We will do it again next week, hopefully.
Sounds good.
Alrighty, folks, thank you so much for joining us. If you want to check out my day gig, it is the Wilmington's Morning News Podcast, live morning political talk show. Check it out wherever you get your podcasts. If you missed any portion of this show, don't forget, as Brian noted, head on over to our website. It's infectionpodcast.com. Maybe you want to read about the Deer Girl in the Twitch Advisory Council. You can find all of that on our website. It's infectionpodcast.com. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. Have a great week. We'll see you next time.